Okay, first things first, let's talk about the ingredients. Here on the cutting board is the ingredients that you're going to need. Now, I have no clue what store you're going to be going to, and in the future, you never know what store you might go to. So there are some things you can substitute, and but there's some things that you really can't. For the sake of making it easy to make this spaghetti today, we are going ahead and defaulting in a couple areas. For instance, one of the ingredients is oregano. One of them's basil. If you notice, they're both dried. I prefer the real thing, but to make it easier, because you're preparing this for a large group of people, we're going to go with dried basil and dried oregano. If you're doing it just for yourself, you and a couple of people, you should actually try the real thing, chop it up. You can actually use a little more, and it actually tastes better. But you can't chintz home olive oil. You need extra virgin olive oil. Definitely use kosher salt. Don't use the cheap stuff. It does make a difference in taste. And you want some good fresh ground pepper. I prefer to not use the pre-peeled, as you see I bought here, but to make it easier for y'all's preparation, definitely go with that. Also, as you can see, this is Kraft, also known as Crap Parmesan cheese. I typically will use blocks of cheese and grate them up, and it tastes much better. But for this particular event, Parmesan cheese will do, and no one will complain. The tomatoes, you don't have to go with this particular brand, but make a note, crushed tomatoes. See, they're already crushed up. You don't have to do anything to them, but you want decent ones. These happen to be organic. They taste better. You can look for this color box, if you want. I prefer them in the box as opposed to the can. That's one less thing you have to do. You just cut these things open real easy without having to break open a can opener. Now, all sauces are not made the same. As you can see, you can see the name of this particular one, okay? You can see the brand. This is the one we use at home all the time and have for years and years and years and years. It's really good. That being said, there are plenty of sauces that you can pick up. But if you'll notice the number of ounces, and this can be based on what you're doing. When you're buying an individual bottle, you can get something in the range of 22 to 26 ounces, and that will all work for this recipe. But that's about what you're going for, that size. That being said, all sauces are not the same. Ragu is just sugar and tomatoes. There are plenty of sauces at every grocery store you can kind of hunt and peck through, but you don't need something that already has a lot of stuff in it. Basically, this is what you want. Onion. For this recipe, you just need one decent sized onion. Also, for this particular recipe, you want 2 boxes. Spaghetti number 12, if you're going with spaghetti. You're looking for something that takes about 10 to 12 minutes to cook. They're all a little different depending on the brand. I prefer DeKeiko. You may not find DeKeiko at whatever grocery store you're going to. But basically, if you'll notice, 1 pound. So you're wanting 2 boxes of that. And then your ground beef. Again, you gotta have to go with whatever you got at whatever grocery store. But you're hoping to find grass-fed, and you want 90-10, which is a little leaner. You don't need a lot of extra oil. We're going to have plenty of olive oil. There's olive oil in the sauce. There's oils in the onion and the garlic. So you don't need a lot of extra fat from the hamburger meat. But as you can see, it's 2 pounds. You're shooting for a couple of pounds. Now the ingredients you see in front of you, we're going to go through it step by step for the recipe. But this is what you need for 6 servings. Now, take the meat out. This is still exactly what you need for vegetarian. Now, one thing we didn't cover, if you'll notice over here in the back, many of you aren't old enough to purchase this, but this is my favorite to use. My second favorite would be Merlot. But you're looking for a good bodied wine because we're going to use about a cup of it. You can make this recipe without it. For this particular video, we are going to be using the wine, but you cannot have that if you can't acquire it. That'll be between you and your coach, and I don't know anything about it. But if you can acquire it, again, this set of ingredients right here, we're going to get to all of what you're using, but you already know a few things right off the bat, like 2 pounds of meat, 2 pounds of spaghetti, 1 onion, 20 some odd ounces of that. You can look at your tomatoes here. It has a net weight of 26 ounces. You know, I mean, you guys can do the math on this. But you definitely, for this whole project, you'll need the whole jar of garlic. You'll need a big thing of salt, a thing of pepper, decent sized basil, oregano, some crushed dried chili flakes, and a whole bottle of olive oil. But obviously we're not using all this for tonight's recipe, but we're using some of it. You guys are going to have to do the math based on what you're fixing. If it's with meat, if it's not with meat and it's vegetarian, you guys can figure out the math based on what we're doing here. This meal is set up and designed for 6 people. 2 boxes, 2 pounds, 1 jar. This will be enough for 6 people. You can break out the math from there. Now the next thing for this part of the video, basically what are you going to need? You're going to need a good sharp knife, preferably a wooden spoon, a pasta spoon. If you don't know what this is for crushing up the hamburger meat. Okay? Now, if you can't find one of these at the grocery store, I'm very sorry, because you're going to have to use the wooden spoon to break apart the meat, and probably a spatula to stir it, stir it all around. You do need a good pair of scissors, cut open a few things. You're going to need a pot. Let me step back a little bit, give you an idea. If you look at the bottom, and I don't know if you can see that or not, 8 QT, that's 8 quarts, okay? This is a pot that's big enough to fix a meal for 6 people. So again, do your math. This is also an 8-quart double. If you'll notice, see, it's got the strainer in it, okay? So this is for the pasta. Again, this will easily cook 2 pounds of pasta, but that's about it. So if you're got multiple kitchens going, this is basically what you're going to need. And when you guys get down there, you're going to have to assess the kitchen right off the bat. If you don't have access to these pots or something close to it, or the utensils, it may be a little hard to do the recipe. Just showing you real quick, garlic. This is how I usually do the garlic. You break them up and get your pieces out of there. But that, for the quantity that you guys are going for, that's why we're going with just buy the jar and be done with it. Okay, now you've got the ingredients. You know what the utensils are. We're going to start making some spaghetti. I'm going to end this segment and then start a new segment once I clear everything off and get ready.